Welcome, Slayer the Alchemist. And on today's episode, I have a special guest with me, Tony Dio. He's no stranger to the lair. We see him most often at Dudes Talking Metal. And we were going to make this a Dudes Talking Metal episode, but some of the other dudes couldn't make it. So the Dudes Code says you need three or more dudes for it to be Dudes Talking Metal. So we're here. We're just making this a regular layer episode. But today we're going to be talking about songs that we feel should have been sequenced, placed somewhere else in the running order of an album. What got me thinking of this was as I saw somebody was posting some eight tracks, and eight tracks were famous because of the four tracks. Sometimes they had to shuffle the order of the songs around to try to make it fit. Sometimes songs would fade out, fade in as they went across at different tracks. And it got me thinking about songs that you listen to the record and you think, man, this song could have been more effective if it was placed somewhere else in the running order. So, all right, Tony, what do you got for your first pick?
It's funny you mentioned the eight track thing because I grew up listening to eight tracks, and there was so many different albums that I heard growing up that when I eventually got them on album or cassette later on, and they'd be in the proper running order, I was like, "This isn't right," because I just wasn't used to hearing them in that order like that. But
Yeah, it's
but
funny you
yeah,
say that because sometimes the first time you hear something, uh, and if you just listen to it like that for a long time, you just get used to it, and that feels like the normal thing to you. Like, for instance, I don't know if this is on your list at all, anything from British Steel, but the my version of British Steel I always had I'm looking at Wikipedia right now. It says the US version starts with Breaking the Law, Rapid Fire Metal Gods. But the version
hmm
that I had when I was young, the cassette that I had was always Rapid Fire Metal Gods, Breaking the Law. And so for me,
right.
I can't hear that record any other way. I cannot imagine that record starting with Breaking the Law. It's to me, it's burnt into my memory. So yeah, that's interesting that you say that sometimes it's whatever you heard first and you just sort of get used to it and then everything after that sounds strange.
And that is actually one that I had considered talking about because the what it is the European version started with Rapid Fire,
Okay.
and the U.S. version on vinyl, and the U.S. version started with Breaking the Law, and I've actually been in search of one of the British copies because I'd like to have one to add to the collection with it. Because to me, Rapid Fire is should be the opening song always. It's just
Yeah.
it should be. It's just the way it is. But the first one I'm going to talk about here, actually got a little Judas Priest connection to this. Is the second release by Icon, Night of the Crime, and I just this album just actually celebrated its 40th anniversary this month, or last month, September, and I posted this up on my Metal Emporium page and stuff about this album, and how I thought the running order, if it had been in a different running order, I think it would have been a more successful record, because anybody that got into Icon um, with the first album, that first album is a full on balls out metal record. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
good heavy metal record. Very, if you're into stuff like Wasp and stuff like that, you'll get into it. And when the second album came out, this one, Night of the Crime, and I remember a friend buying it, and he said, "Man, I got the new Icon album, and they have sold out big time."
Mhm.
So I didn't even want to go out and get it at first, and eventually I did get. I think I heard his copy, and I still went out and got it. But this album, these guys are from Arizona, and this album starts out with the song Naked Eyes. Bob Halligan Jr. co-wrote, he either wrote or co-wrote six songs on this album. And Bob Halligan's a hit songwriter, and that's my Judas Priest connection there with that, because he's the guy, he wrote some stuff with Judas Priest, like
Yeah.
Some Heads Are Gonna Roll
Yeah.
was a kind of minor hit for them. And he's written with Kicks and so many bands over the years. And so I guess Capitol Records wanted to lead off the album with one of his songs, and so they open with Naked Eyes, and it's not a bad song. It's just very commercial. So you go through this album at side one, you get to the last track, track five. The last track on side one is called Out for Blood. And that song sounds like something that would have been on the first self-titled
Mm,
Icon album. It even has a 2 minute intro that like an intro piece. It's not even separated from the song. It's like this was meant to be the first song on the
yeah.
album. And it just makes me wonder if that's what they had planned and the label came in and said, no, we
All
want you to kick
right.
it off with one of the Bob Halligan songs. And and as I listened to this album uh a week or two ago, and then you came up with this homework assignment here, I was like, God, I would change the complete running order of this album. I mean, as long as you put that song first, Out for Blood, I could go with it. I think people would have heard that and just went, this sounds like Icon, and it wouldn't have been such a shock to them. But there's other songs that like Raise the Hammer is on side two, and I think that should have been the second song on the album. That's actually a Halligan Pen song, but I think it would have been a good single. And the third song that I would have put on it is Take a Shot of My Heart, which is a band written song. And they actually released that as a single. There's the 12-inch single, radio single for that.
Mm,
But yeah, this album I think would have flowed so much better if they had just changed the complete running order of it. But definitely, most definitely, Out for Blood should have been the opening track because, like I said, it's written as an opening track with that
yeah.
intro and everything. And I think it would have the album may have not tanked as fast as it did. I don't even think they did a music video for this album. So, it was poised to be a hit album. It has some really good songs that are a little more AOR tinged than it on their first album, but it tanked. I think it shocked the fans, the already established fans, and I don't think it really picked up any too many new fans. Now, fast forward 20 some years later, it started getting gaining traction again when I think it was Kerrang magazine voted it as one of the top AOR records
Yeah.
of all time.
And
So
Eddie Trunk always raves about that record too. So yeah, that record has kind of become like a cult classic. And what year did that
mhm.
come out? Wasn't that kind of like late 80s?
1985.
Oh, 85.
1985.
God,
Like
I
I
always
said,
thought that
it
was a
just
little bit
it
later.
just turned it just turned 40 in September. Yep,
Wow.
40th
Yeah.
anniversary. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my first pick.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, stuff like that makes you wonder, like, they probably didn't have the clout to tell the record label exactly what to do,
Yeah.
and so they're probably in a situation where you're right, the record label switches things around at the last second or does something different. But all right,
Hmm.
for me, my first pick, and this is what inspired this for me. I on Reddit, I belong to a cassette culture. It's called, not that I'm really a cassette collector, but sometimes, nostalgia. And somebody posted their cassette version of Stained Class, and it had White Heat Red Hot and Savage flipped. So Savage was the second song on the record, and White Heat Red Hot would have been five, six, the seventh song on the record. And somebody commented that just what you had mentioned, that sometimes early versions of cassettes they used the 8 track version, assuming there was no fade out. So they said that might have been, the person was just speculating that could have come from the 8 track thing. But that's not I'm perfectly fine with White Heat Red Hot at number two on Stained Glass and Savage on the second song, second side. For me, though, I've always felt with this record that this record should have ended with Beyond the Realms of Death. It's an epic song. Is it the longest song it's the longest song on the record at 6 minutes 53 seconds. I'm a big believer in the first song, if you're talking CDs, the first song and the last song, if you're talking vinyl or cassettes, first song side one, first song side two. Last song side one, last song side two. But if I had to break it down, what's the most important? The first opening track and the closing track. And to me, Beyond the Realms of Death is just an epic song. And the way it ends and everything with Rob with that big dramatic scream, it just should have ended there. Heroes End, not that I don't like Heroes End, but honestly, if I rank the songs on this record, Heroes End might be my least favorite or my second to least favorite. So it sort of ends the record on not the best song, and your
Yeah.
last song, I've always liked records where the last song is kind of epic and it's sounds like it's leaving you with this sort of big statement. And Heroes End just doesn't feel like that for me. They could have just flipped the two and had Heroes End and then Beyond the Realms of Death. But whenever I listen to this record from beginning to end, when Beyond the Realms of Death ends, I always feel like, okay, I'm done. And then it's just like, all right, well, now here's Heroes End. And to I don't know, you can tell me if this bothers you. When they in the early when CDs started putting bonus tracks on, as much as I appreciated the bonus tracks, I never liked that it messed with whatever the last song on the record was. I was used to hearing the song, like even here, like there's two extra bonus tracks on the original CD reissue of this. And in my mind, I'm just weird like that. I want to hear it sort of end the way I'm used to hearing it end. And often bonus tracks, like with these Judas Priest reissues where they put two bonus tracks on each CD, they're usually not very good, or they were a live song. Like on Stained Glass, you get Better by You, Better Than Me live, but it's live in 1990. So it's not even live
Hmm.
from when they toured this record. And you get a song, Fire Burns Below, which was done for the Ram It Down sessions, which doesn't fit things like that drive me crazy. It's like, why couldn't somebody at the
Same.
record company say, hey, let's organize this stuff and try to make it relevant to the bonus tracks match the album. So, but yeah,
You know,
Beyond the Realms
it,
of Death
that's
for
it,
me should have closed this record.
that album does open with a perfect song, with Exciter is the opening track for sure. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
I agree with you. Those Priest reissues, I didn't even buy them because one, a friend got all of them, and I was just like, I didn't like the way they did those bonus tracks on those CDs because it's just like you said, they're all out of order.
Yeah.
And hey, you got a buddy there.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a visitor.
And
We've got an extra
yeah,
dude. All right, we can call it Dudes
all
Talking
right,
Metal.
all right. We have to
Dudette.
get
This is a dudette
dude.
now.
We have to get her picks. So so yeah, I remember borrowing all of those CDs, and I made a CD set that just had all the demos on one disc, and the other
Yeah.
disc was all the live tracks. That way I had them. Plus, I don't know about you, but a lot of that remastered stuff, some of that remastered stuff that came out during that period, to me just does not sound good. They sound processed, and I
Yeah.
think the original CDs that came out sound better than the remasters. In the Priest case for sure. But
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah.
Over the years, that's what I think. I had a couple of them in the original CD, but I still had my cassettes at that point of them. So when these remasters came out, I bought those. But then over the years, I went back and just bought the original first issue CDs because they
Hmm.
sound the most like the original, the vinyl records,
Yeah.
for better or for worse. I mean, sometimes some of the
Hmm.
70s pre stuff, I think Stained Class sounds excellent. Sin After Sin is a little bit muddy sounding, but it's okay. It's like I want it to be. These versions were a little too compressed. They were too bright and harsh sounding. So,
Okay, next up, I'm going with AC/DC for Those About to Rock, which was what was their 1981 album, the big follow up to the what is it? How many times platinum is Back in Black now? Who knows? Like 20
yeah.
sometimes platinum. Um, Kind of in the same thing that you were talking about with Beyond the Realms of Death. This album opens with For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. I think that should be the closing track on the
Yeah.
album because it starts off with that dee, 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 and they're real slow. And I love the song. I'm not knocking the song, but I think that's just to follow up Back in Black. I don't think that was the perfect song to open. To me, I think the opening song should have been Evil Walks
Uh,
because it sounds very similar to the structure of Hell's Bells.
yeah.
And I think they should have went with that. And I would change, a lot of the songs around. I mean, not a whole lot. I mean, most of it could stay the same, but Evil Walks, I would open with Evil Walks, and I would open side two with COD, and I would close side two with For Those About to Rock, We Salute You.
Yeah.
Like it would just work, so it would flow better. This album didn't sell as well, of course, when it supposedly when it came out or whatever did as Back in Black, but hey, I mean, it still did. I think it's several times platinum still.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I guess in my head, maybe what they're thinking is like, okay, you're getting ready. Who's getting ready to rock? It's for those about to rock.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, where this would be a case of it would be really hard for me to hear this record in a different order because AC/DC was my first hard rock band. But it would be an interesting experiment to maybe, I don't know how I would do this, maybe in iTunes or something like that, rearrange the order of, or actually just make a
Yeah,
playlist if you have
yeah.
Spotify and rearrange the order of the songs and try to live with it like that for a little while. Because yeah, the way you say it, I can definitely see that, especially like with the cannons and everything.
I was
The
going to say,
big,
and keep in mind that's what they usually end the show with.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's right. Yeah, I can see that. And it is a song that is, as much as I love it, it takes a little while for it to get moving. It's like starts with the guitar, then it's just like a bass drum, and the song is pretty mid-paced. It goes into like the double time thing at the end, but it takes a little while for that to get moving. And yeah, you're right. Evil Walks, that's like a deep cut AC/DC favorite of mine. And if the album had started with that,
And then go into Put the Finger on You from
yeah,
there.
yeah, that could have worked because Hell's Bells was a very kind of dark sounding song, so it would have lined up with the same thinking. Yeah, that's interesting. I think that this album gets I wouldn't say a bad rap, but it suffers from what I call the Back in Black syndrome. And I talk about this a lot in the AC/DC podcast, Kicked in the Teeth, that I do with Martin Popoff. When you have an album that's as big as Back in Black, everything after it lives in its shadow. Back in Black is one of the biggest selling hard rock records of all time. And everybody looks at For Those About to Rock like it was a failure, it flopped after Back in Black. It still sold like 3 or 4 million copies.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, for sure.
back then, I mean, to sell 1 million copies was considered really successful. So to do 3 or 4 million, I mean, that would have been like a massive, massive hit for any other band. But again, because it lives in the shadow of Back in Black. Although what's the last song on the record is Spellbound, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and I am pretty fond of that song. I do kind of like the way that song, the mood of that song and everything. But yeah, that's an interesting pick. All right, for me, I'm gonna go with Iron Maiden, and I always felt like on the first Iron Maiden record that Phantom of the Opera should have ended the album. It's the last song on side one, so it does kind of work there. But I think this is because Iron Maiden would on their other records, you get you're gonna get Hallowed Be Thy Name ends Number of the Beast. To Tame a Land ends Peace of Mind. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner ends Power Slave. Uh, Alexander the Great ends No Prayer for the Dying. So there's sort of a theme
Yeah.
there that like the epic
Hmm.
songs always sort of end the Iron Maiden record. And in this case, I just would have liked to have heard this as the last track on the record. As it stands, the album ends with Iron Maiden. So I sort of get it. It's like a theme song, their namesake song. But I don't know. I just think it would have been served better to end the record. They could have put the song Iron Maiden there and it would have worked as a side one album closer because I do really like, or maybe they could have put Charlotte the Harlot as number four, and the first side, just like doesn't 22 Acacia Avenue end side one of Number of the Beast? So,
Yes.
there could
Hmm.
have been like there could have
Yeah.
been a theme there.
Good matchup there. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's for me, Phantom of the Opera. I always kind of wish that that had ended the first Iron Maiden record.
Cool. Next up, I've got another AC/DC album. The next in line here is Flick of the Switch, and this album opens with Rising Power, and it's a good track. I like the track. This album has grown on me so much over the years. I used to didn't even like it, and it's one of my favorites now. But I feel like it needs a more just kick-ass opening track, and I think the title track, "Flick of the Switch," should have been the first
Mm.
track on the album, and then go into Rising Power and so forth. I mean, nothing else would change. Just moving Flick of the Switch to the start. I think it just needs a good kick-ass song to open with. Rising Power is cool, but it's kind of a mid-pace. It is a fist-pumping song, but it's more mid-pace. And Flick of the Switch is just a good fast-paced track. Rocking track. I just felt like it
Yeah.
would have set the pace of the album a little better.
Yeah, I totally agree with that because it's too mid-paced. It's kind of cool the way it starts with just that snare hit, crack, da da
Hmm.
da 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 da.
Yeah.
But it would have been if the album had like flick of the switch, the way you just hear the hi-hats, tick, 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 boom, boom, and
Mm.
it just gone right into it. Yeah, I agree that I think that would have
I
been.
actually listened to it that way today. I was streaming it at work, and I listened to Flick of the Switch first, and then I went straight to Rising Power. I was like, "Yeah, that works. That's the
Yeah,
way it
it
should have
it would
been."
have been much better as the second track on that record. It's sort of too like Let There Be Rock. I like it Go Down, but the
Hmm.
album could have, that's not one of the, if I was ranking the songs on that record, that's not one of the best songs on that record. They could have started with, I don't know, they could have started with Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be. That would have been pretty epic. They could have
Yeah.
started with, I kind of like Let There Be Rock at the end of side one. I think that would have been too long to put that. But Go Down and Rising Power, they're sort of the same type of
Hmm.
mid-tempo type of vibe. It's almost like we're just kind of getting warmed up here. It's like we're just getting loosened up, and then the record starts. But yeah, I love that record. And early on in my channel, it was the first time I ever did this type of episode. I called it In Defense of, and I did it in defense of Flick of the Switch. And it's still to this day gets people commenting on it because it's another record that is viewed as a flop, as a failure. Uh, standing next to, again, Back in Black sells like 20 million copies. For Those About to Rock sells three or four. Flick of the Switch doesn't.
Dirty Deeds was thrown in.
Yeah,
Dirty Deeds
exactly.
came out right at that time.
Yeah, and I've said this that if Dirty Deeds hadn't have come out, Dirty Deeds came out between, I think, Back in Black and For Those About to Rock
Yeah.
in the US.
Hmm.
And that really hampered the sales of For Those About to Rock because this is the other thing about the Back in Black syndrome. Whatever you put out after that is guaranteed to sell a couple million copies because everybody loves Back in Black or everybody loves Appetite for Destruction. So no matter what comes out after that, it's going to sell a lot. So Dirty Deeds was the beneficiary of the success of Back in Black, whereas For Those About to Rock could have been the beneficiary, and they could have. Maybe sold a couple more million copies for those about to rock if they weren't competing with Dirty Deeds. And by the time you get to Flick of the Switch, there's a little bit of maybe fatigue with the band. The band's getting played like crazy. The Back in Black songs, Dirty Deeds, Big Balls. And by that time, the Flick of the Switch rolls around. It has really, suffered. It's really suffered. And I'm looking right now to see how many copies. Did Flick of the Switch go platinum? It let's see here. US, yeah, it's gone platinum. So again, like most bands would kill for a platinum record. Like for instance, Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak. That hasn't gone platinum. We're talking in the US, right? But that's a huge, when most people think of Thin Lizzy, what's their big record? Jailbreak. That hasn't even gone platinum. I'm not
Probably need
sure.
to they probably need to recertify that because it probably has by now as much as popular as the
Yeah,
song is, but yeah, that AC/DC record though, Nervous Shakedown was the US single, if I'm not mistaken, was the first single from it too. And I just remember the video was they had the video was Flick of the Switch, it was
yeah,
that video of them playing in the studio with Simon Wright on drums.
yeah. Yeah, they're in like a rehearsal studio and yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we've got some we have a few extra here. We'll do one more. I'm gonna go with I am gonna go with I'm trying to decide picking between the two that I have here. I'm gonna go with Rush and 2112. I think the 2112 should have been on side two of the record. It's so epic, it's so amazing that when it's over and you kind of flip over to, not that I don't love Passage to Bangkok and Twilight Zone, and I think side two is really good, but because 2112 is so epic and amazing, it sort of makes side two feel like a little bit of a letdown, especially when you get to like lessons, tears. I do like something for nothing. Uh, Maybe they were trying to make a statement. This was a make or break record for them. So they thought we got to open up the record with the big one, 2112. So I get it, but just in my mind, I would have liked to have seen the way it ends with the whole big crashing, sounds and attention all planets of the solar federation. It just would have been cool to just have the whole thing just end, the whole record end on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's cool. I agree. I would. I've always. I don't know though. I mean, I see your point with it. I agree. That's the way it should have been. But I don't know if many people would have just picked it up so fast if they had sat through side one. Or side two as side one first. Because
True.
I think
That's
that
true because it
the
would have been a
selling
little
the
bit of a slog.
I mean, that was one of the first Rush records I ever got, and what sold me was that 2112 Overture. I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, this is great. And I actually didn't really like side two that much back then. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Side two might have turned people off and they may have never even have gotten, or side
but I
one.
see your point though for the whole
Yeah.
for it to be placed like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You got a third pick?
No, that
Oh, that
was my
was your
third pick.
three.
With
Oh, you did three
yeah,
already.
that
All
was my
right.
three. Yeah,
I did have one
that's
or
all
two
I
other
have
ones.
prepared today. Yeah, go ahead and throw another one if
Yeah,
you got one.
I always felt that I never liked the way Rock Soldiers opened Fraley's Comet, Ace Frehley's Comet record. I always thought it was too long, and I just thought they should have opened up with something more straightforward and rocking, and maybe moved Rock Soldiers to like the last song on side one or something like that. That was one of them. I never liked These Boots ending, Killing is My Business, the end of side one. I mean, I just don't like that song cover of it in general. That should have been moved. They should have flipped it with like mechanics or something. They just should have moved. buried that somewhere in the record. I just don't, it's a mood killer for me whenever in fact, the CD version that I have of this doesn't even have these boots on it. And I love it because then I don't have to listen to it.
Well,
But
luckily it's at the end. You can always hit stop. You
yeah.
know.
No, on the original version, it's the fourth song
I
on
don't
it.
even remember.
Yeah, I
Actually,
think that's the way the vinyl is. The
okay, yeah, it is. You're right. You're right. I just picked this. I just picked an original copy of that up on CD recently. They're kind of hard to find now. The original combat ones, the the made in Japan version, they're kind of collectible now. But yeah, okay, yeah. Never been a huge fan of this record, to be honest with you.
yeah, it's funny. And you know,
Love peace sales. But
yeah, it's grown on me a little bit though over the years. I've recently found this remastered CD version that I had, and this was a case of where the remaster I think actually sounds pretty good. So
yeah,
yeah,
they did
okay. Well,
one where they
that's
like re-recorded some parts to it as
no, this
well.
was
You
an
know.
earlier one. This isn't one of the
Okay.
ones where I know what you're talking about. They did a whole series where they re-recorded some stuff, but this wasn't. This was some version in between before those came out. So. All right. Well, there you go. There's some songs that we feel would have been served better if they were somewhere else on the record. Let us know what you think of our picks. Let us know some of your picks in the comments down below. I'd like to thank Tony for joining me here. Make sure you check out Tony Dio's Metal Emporium. He's got his YouTube channel talking about all kinds of cool stuff, showing off all those cool albums and CDs and stuff that he is. I love the fact that when I mentioned the Megadeth, you turned around and you just picked it out right away. Like you know
Well,
where everything
it's easy access right here. Yeah, I'm
you
actually
know where
working on some
everything in
new
your room is.
some stuff I go digging out. Where is that? You know, but I'm actually working on some new content. I've been kind of on vacation from the channel for a few weeks, but I'm getting back and working on some content right now. It's just trying to find time to get it all done because it's definitely quite the undertaking. And sometimes I end up spending an hour looking for stuff that I don't know where it's at.
You should give
So
us a tour of your room. You should do a room
I've
tour.
got two rooms, so it's crazy.
Well, give us
Yeah,
a two-room
yeah,
tour then. I'd love to
yeah,
see
man.
what it I can just picture in my mind. I'm just picturing CDs and cassettes and all
This is the
kinds of
CD
things.
room, CD cassette room here. You have all my vinyls in the living room actually. So
All right, there you
yeah,
go. All right,
well,
so make
cool.
sure you head
Well,
on
thanks for
over to
having me, man. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll get
absolutely.
some
Head on
dudes
over to
together
Tony
soon.
Dio's Metal Emporium, and of course you'll see Tony back when the dudes rejoin for the next Dudes Talking Metal episode. So, all right, till we see you again. Make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.